assist one another. And I hope that today is going to be such a session. We have someone here with us, and she comes highly recommended from Nadine. Praise God. Nadine highly recommend this Miss Monique, and she has to be a nice person because she has my name. Monique and Monica is the same name, just Monique is French. But I saw if her name is Monique, you know, she's one of the nicest person that you could ever find, just because of that name. We're just very nice people.
She sure is. She sure is.
Right. Okay. So, all right. I see that Nadine is here. Nadine, and I'm going to make you a co-host, and I'm going to ask Nadine to introduce Monique Kassner to everyone else, and welcome again, everyone. And if you haven't done so, invite someone to listen. Nadine, you can unmute yourself and introduce her to the rest of us.
Okay, I was driving. Let me just pull over right here. Miss Monique Kassner, I met her through my hairstylist. She's a licensed ESE specialist and a tutor, and she is now Abigail's tutor, and has been for a little over a year. Right. And I tell you, such an awesome person, such a huge improvement for Abigail with her, schoolwork and even, personal, other things in her personal life that she will assist me with, helping her to understand and process and all of that. So I highly recommend her. She does tutoring via Zoom via Zoom now, because she's no longer in Florida, and she tutors Abigail Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays via Zoom virtually, and it's awesome. So I highly recommend her, and I'm sure she has a whole lot to impart today. So Miss Monique Kassner to the group.
Amen. It's over to you, Miss Monique Kassner.
Thank you. I was a little bit intimidated when I heard that I was to do a presentation on this, but I so love it, and it's such a part of my being that I feel that I'll just speak from the heart. I can give the statistics and the data, and we'll work on that as well. But I'll also say that you have to love the child to be effective. You can't be a robot when you're working with the child. And I'm looking at it from a teacher's point of view. You have to be very sensitive to the fact that this is another being, God's creation, and you should respect that person. That's very, very important to me. And the skills that I have as far as teaching children with autism is, number one, I believe it's God-given, but some people can learn it, is to have patience. Simply sit back and let the child speak first, or do first, or give you signals, give you cues. Listen to what they're saying, if it's just a phrase or a word, or watch how they express themselves physically, where their eyes are going. If they show a little bit of a smile or a grimace, if they are distracted by something nearby. You have to be very aware of how the child is responding to what you're saying and what you're trying to impart. Those are very important key things that I think to be effective as far as to teach children with autism. This is very important. You have to be quiet and respectful and listen to the child, because they have something important to say, and they are a being of the Lord. And another thing, as far as breaking down, as far as teaching the autistic, you have to learn to break down what you want to teach them. What we might think to teach a typical child something, it would be just a simple verbal command. With a child that's autistic, maybe they have to see you doing it. If I say to a typical child, pick up your pencil or your crayon, for an autistic child, I'll have to pick it up and say, put it in your hand and hold it this way. can't be assumed that just by telling them verbally that they'll understand you. You have to also consider that they need to see, because there's people, just like there's different types of typical people, there are people that learn visually, learn oratorily, learn by being told certain things, or by kinesthetics, if just movement. They learn by clapping their hands, singing along, that sort of thing. There's different types of learners. So we have to be respectful and very mindful of the fact that if we're just saying, sit down, that might not be enough for the autistic child. They have to see you model that behavior so that they can mimic that behavior or imitate that behavior. If you want them to behave a certain way, that's really important that you model that behavior to them. If you want them to speak a certain way, you have to model that behavior, very specific. If you want them to speak clearly, you have to speak clearly as well. So if you want them to speak slowly, you have to speak slowly as well. And they're great at mimicking. They are great at mimicking. Once you have their attention and they respect you and what you're teaching them, they will mimic your behavior, and you'll have positive results. Another thing I drop down here is reinforcing the skill. If you want behavior to be repeated, it has to be reinforced. And that falls under the whole umbrella of applied behavior analysis. Big words for just conditioning. And what is conditioning? Well, it's operant conditioning. And it says that behaviors followed by reinforcement are likely to be repeated. So what kind of reinforcement? On the simplistic terms, we can have reinforcement. For instance, if you want a child an autistic child or a typical child to sit down quietly and just be sitting quietly, you might reinforce them with a cookie or some kind of edible. That's a tangible reinforcer. Or a social reinforcer, like saying, job well done, you're doing a great job. So there's different kinds of reinforcers, depending upon the level at which the child is performing. If a verbal reinforcer, positive reinforcer is enough, then great, you're doing a great job. A hand clap along with it, you get a hand clap, you're doing a great job. I'm proud of you. Those visual aids also help with reinforcers. Otherwise, basically, I've had students where function on a different level where they need that primary reinforcer to do something. So they'll need the cookie, the crayon, there's something to handle as far as a reinforcer is concerned before you get them to do something. Let's see what else I have here. Well, we talked about operant conditioning. One important thing about conditioning a student and giving them reinforcers, and I can't stress this enough, there's two things. One is to be consistent as much as possible, no matter what. A must equal B, and then you will get C, but you can't deviate from that. So it's also the fact where you can't use a lot of words to explain something. Be simplistic so that the child can understand, or put in the compartmentalize it and say, this behavior will lead to this reinforcer, which will give me what I want, whatever it is, my consequence. So that is very important. Another thing, as far as being consistent is concerned, what else did I want to say? Is also, of course, being patient with the child and not say, hurry up or make a decision or let's go. That is just a bunch of distraction. It will take them off task. They won't be able to focus on what your goal is. They'll find something else to do because it's just too much stimuli. You want to reduce the stimuli. Speaking of which, if you are teaching a child, you want to remove all those distractors. You do not want an iPad, telephone, toy, crayons, anything that would be distracting to be in front of them or within arm's reach, or music playing if you want to get a point across. Background music is a terrible thing. Also, in my classrooms, I learned that the autistic can see the fluorescent light flickering, things that typical people don't pick up. So that is a highly distracting to them, the flickering light. They pick up that flickering light. So what I did in my classroom, shut the light off and put a background lamp on, and then I could teach. And I'd have them close to me so that they wouldn't be distracted by the distance from me to them. They only see me. But granted, I had only 5 students in my classroom and I had 2 assistants. So the learning environment was perfect. But aside from teaching them curriculum and going through their goals and objectives and trying to make them progress in their goals and objectives, you have to think of your surrounding environment. You're not going to get the outcome that you're hoping for if there's a lot of distraction. Even another child screaming at in the cubby next to him will be highly distracting. Don't expect that child to work on their independent work when the child next to them is fussing. It's too distracting. It's distracting to me, and I'm supposed to be typical. So the key is to reduce those distractors as much as possible. Does anybody have a question?
We'll take the questions, or they can put it in the chat.
Okay, I just
We're
don't,
listening,
because
we'll take it.
I can go on and on. So
We want to learn. Most of us don't know, so we want to learn.
okay. All right. So now consequences have an effect on the behavior. Behaviors will be increased or decreased based on the consequence. Now, we've heard of positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, and positive doesn't necessarily mean good, and negative does not necessarily mean bad. Positive reinforcement is you adding something in to get the desired behavior. Negative reinforcement is to pull something away to get the desired behavior. So, for instance, if your desired behavior is the child to be attentive, but this child is banging on the table with a toy or something to try to get your attention, what you do is take away that toy and show little or no facial response, no disapproval, nothing. Just take it away, put it away, continue with what you're doing, and wait till the child calms down. This is so important because we as human beings always are reactionary. It's just human nature. We react, we react. But when we are dealing with the autistic, they read our faces. If we show disapproval, that's not going to stop them from doing that behavior. That's reinforcing. You're adding something. You're adding that you they got your attention and you disapprove of what they're doing. That's going to perpetuate the behavior because they're essentially getting what they want. And what they want is your attention. Before it was with the toy. But you'll have to be very cognizant of the fact that you must not show any kind of response or any kind of disapproval, anything like that. You just remove it and then continue until they calm down. Let me see. We said that negative does not mean bad, or certainly not punishment. We do not use punishments. That is to me, that hurts me to the core when I hear that word. It is not used, certainly not recommended when you're trying to teach a child with autism to behave in an appropriate behavior, an appropriate way, or to get an outcome that you want. But punishment will not work. It just will not work. You have to approach it from a different aspect. Okay, what can I do with this child that's going to reinforce the behavior that I want? Are we all there? Okay, so that's the key. Also, let's say, here's another scenario. You have an autistic child, a mom that's on the telephone, and the autistic child taps the mom on the shoulder, says, mommy, 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 mommy. The best thing for mom to do is to get up and remove herself, stay on the phone, but remove herself from the child so that the child knows that you tapping on me will not get what you want, which is my attention, which is me getting off the phone. You don't want that. You want to pick yourself up, remove yourself, put yourself in another room. And this teaches the child that their behavior is not going to get the outcome that they want, which is mom's attention. Even if mom reacts and says, don't do that, or tries to say something negative, that's reinforcement. That is telling the child that, hey, I got her attention. That's what I wanted, her attention. Scolding doesn't matter. I got the intention. That's the key. So you want positive behavior to come out, you remove yourself from the situation, and then the child will stop tapping and will learn that tapping is not the way to get my attention. It doesn't work. Okay. Let me see. When a behavior is followed by a positive consequence, that behavior will be increased. Now, a positive consequence, again, is something that's added. If a behavior is followed by a negative consequence, something removed, then that behavior will decrease. For instance, if the behavior was tapping, followed by mom's negative consequence, her removing herself from the situation, then that behavior will decrease. The tapping will decrease. That's the key to that. So the important thing to know is that being a positive consequence and a negative consequence does not necessarily mean good and bad. It means removing or adding. That's what it is, just like simple math.
All right, I have a question here. If you do like what you're just saying a while ago, wouldn't that like ignoring the child and their behavior?
Yes.
And that with autism, does not that affect them? Because there's, for example, if a child is trying to get your attention, and you ignore them, then wouldn't they feel, how would that negatively like affect them? Like, my mommy don't pay attention when I call. Wouldn't they just stop calling the mother for when they need her for something? Or that doesn't work for autism?
What I would do is remove myself from the situation, get off the phone in a short period of time. This is what I would do. And then come back to them, seeing that they're sitting down and saying, I know that you had something important to tell me. I am finished with my phone call. Thank you for sitting appropriately. What, my dear, can I do for you? They have to learn that certain behaviors, just because mom is not always responding or reacting, doesn't mean that it's appropriate, that it should be feeding into them. Us reacting to them constantly is just feeding them, could be negatively, you don't want that. You want them to behave appropriately, just like you would expect from a typical person. Don't interrupt me on the telephone when I'm talking. But I wouldn't keep it an hour-long phone call. I would be very aware that this child is waiting for me. So I would wrap up the phone call, hang up, not immediately, but there's a judgment call, but I would wrap up my phone call and then come back to the child. And then reinforce that I love you. Thank you for waiting. I was on an important phone call. It was good that you stopped tapping on me. and here I am 100% for you. In the most simplest terms, that's what I would do. Yeah, but
All
it's
right.
to remove yourself.
All right, there's another question here. What are some signs a parent can look for that would indicate a child of autism, and at what age are they normally diagnosed? So how could you diagnose a child with autism? Because some children, as you know, are different, and some are loners, and some are just like to be with other people. Some like to be ill, and some could be in the crib by themselves. So how do you know when a child of autism different than them just being different from because of their personality?
Well, you hit the nail on the head when they want to remove themselves socially. Even as young as 18 months, a child can be diagnosed with autism. I know that they can be diagnosed quite young. And it has to do with simplistic things like eye contact, not because autistic children don't like to make eye contact typically. Being touched too often, they might not like to be touched. Some children that are autistic might not like to be hugged. They don't like that holding down feeling. I understand that you're saying that some kids prefer to be by themselves, but
Yeah.
when it's persistent and they don't like to socialize, I would really question whether or not the child is autistic.
And that when they're in the toddler stage, but not before?
Well, in
You said 18 months, that's year and a half.
From what I've learned is 18 months they can determine if a child has signs of autism already. I know with my son, he was maybe 2.5, and I didn't even pick up that he might have been autism. He wouldn't speak. He wouldn't be autistic. He wouldn't speak. He wouldn't use his words. And I thought it was because of language, because at that point we lived in Germany, and I thought that, well, maybe he doesn't understand. He has signs of, as an adult now, he has signs of autism that he recognizes. He's fully functional, and you know, he does his activities for daily living independently. He doesn't look typically autistic, but he does have some autistic traits. It's there. There is no doubt about it. For instance, he has a hard time with reading people's faces, which is a big thing with autistic children. They'll look at your face and they don't know if you're angry or if you're happy with them or if you're confused. They cannot understand your facial expression. I mean, this is a very, very big subject, and I'm just touching upon the little bit that I know about it from my personal experiences and that which I've learned by the textbook. But now, since autism is so prevalent in young children, I would hope that parents can seek resources to have their child properly tested at a very young age so that they can get intervention to teach the children to function socially and pre-academically in today's world, you know. So that's my answer for that.
All right. Before I get to you, Pauline, you're a co-host, so you can unmute yourself in a bit. But it says somebody here put in the chat that some may display repetitive movement, not responding to their names, poor social communication challenge, and avoidance of eye contact. So
yeah. Well, the repeating certain behaviors like jumping, that's self-stimming or self-stimulation. And that is reinforcing to them. If you want them to stop, you have to redirect them from self-stimming. Self-stimming can be socially inappropriate. For instance, if there's constant tapping of the feet or jumping up and down, that's self-stim, and that's how they reinforce their behavior. And the child can self-stim for hours if they're let to be, if one lets them to self-stim. You have to redirect them to do to do whatever task you need them to do. If it's just sitting down, doing 2 minutes of seat work as far as academics are concerned, or whatever it is, they need to be redirected with some positive reinforcement. They have to have a reason. Why should I do this? What am I going to get out of this if I sit down? Okay, if it's I'm going to get a cookie, or if I'm going to get verbal approval from my mother, or social reinforcement, maybe she'll play with me, tickle me. Any of those can be reinforcing, just like stimming, self-stimming is reinforcing. But we don't want them to self-stim, because that it just builds and builds and builds. And like I said, you can do it for hours. And what was the other thing that you said? Eye contact?
Avoidance of eye contact.
Right. How do we get them to, you know what? I never, as a rule, never insisted that they made eye contact with me. I know that on one level, this is the level in which I would operate, is that it's very stressful for them to make eye contact. It gets them extremely stressed. So when I'm speaking to them, I tend to look away from their eyes so as not to increase stress. Now, I don't know what the textbooks say as far as increasing eye contact, but that's, it could be done. For instance, I had this one student, he was on an informal social goal that I had created. And it was that I would go to the administration's office, particularly the principal, and have him shake hands with the principal, ask him, how are you, Mr. So-and-so? And he'd say, I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. Have a good day. And you have a good day as well. That was the whole lesson. And I told him that, John, just look at the principal's eyes and shake your head. And I wouldn't expect big chunks. I thought that in this 2-minute interchange, if he could make eye contact for 2 minutes, that was a reward for me.
Okay.
That was, you have to, you can't expect, like when we're talking, you can't expect them to be typical to make eye contact. Their eye contact is stress inducing. So it's not disrespecting. It's not disrespectful. It's because it's stressful. So that's why I never insisted, unless they're in a social situation where they should shake hands and make eye contact, I would explain to them that when you shake hands with someone, it's important to look them in the eyes and then, go back. But I was always aware of the fact that it was stressful for them.
Okay. All right. Pauline, you could go ahead and make your
Hello, everyone. Blessings.
Yeah.
The question was asked about, what age. My grandbaby, my twin grandbaby, they're going to be 8 next month. And Mesa came out first and his brother came out 30 minutes after. And we know, like in the first 3 months, that something was wrong with Mason, because there were 2 different kids who we would change Adrian, but when we go to touch Mason, it's like fire was on our hands. He would cry, he would just scream. And if we run the vacuum, he would scream.
Yes.
And 5, 7, 8 months, we said, no, something is wrong with this baby.
Autistic.
And
yes.
Then we start taking him to the pediatrician to see what's wrong with him. And then he was late walking. His brother just he took everything from Mason, and Mason would babble like a monkey, literally like babble. He sounded like a chimpanzee when he talked. So we said, no, something is wrong with him. And he was 13 months when we took him, because now we can't touch him. The thing on his clothes, the tag, we have to take the tags off his clothes when he was little.
Absolutely.
So he was yeah. And then they diagnosed him with autism. He's on a certain spectrum. Now he's going to be 8. When he flushes the toilet, before he flushes the toilet, he closes his ear. You can't hear the sound, and anybody, you just can't just hug him. I was surprised my friends came the other day. Well, I'm not surprised, they were under the anointing of the Holy Ghost. you can't really touch him like that. And the thing about eye contact, when
Yes.
Mesa trying to get your attention, you have to give him eye contact. So it depends on the spectrum. If you're not looking at him, he's not going to talk. And if his mommy's on the phone and he asks to speak to her, he's standing there and if she takes too long, he just it's like he tried to avoid, it's like he's so pure. He tries to avoid any kind of friction or conflict. He will just say, it's okay, mom. It's no matter what it is. It's okay. It's okay. I got it. And he will just walk away. If you hit him and they're fighting him and you go to reprimand the other children, he was like, no, 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 no. No, no, no. It's fine. It's fine, mom. Nana. I mean, the sweetest boy, but you can see that, you have to watch him. You have to watch him because we know that there's something a little bit off, but he's a good boy.
And he's in
But,
a cluster.
special ed.
He's in special
Huh?
ed, autism.
Yeah. Yes, he's in special ed and he had speech therapy when he was right up until he was 5. And he started talking now. Now he wants to be an engineer. He pull everything down and fix it, but reading is hard for him. But he's like very so pure, like he just avoid no matter if you, and that's why we worry. If you push him down, he will, instead of getting up and fighting, he'll get up and think he was the one at fault. So he's telling you, I am so sorry, I didn't mean to. We have to really watch him because he's just like pure. He don't know like this is wrong and this is right. He's gonna be 8 and he's a great boy.
He sounds like a gentle soul. He's a
yes, yes,
God bless him.
yes. God bless him for real. So that's where we are with Mason. They have the touch, sensory.
Yes.
You have to take his tags off his clothes and eye contact. He make eye contact and he likes when he comes to Nana house, my house. He goes straight upstairs, takes his clothes off, put his PJ on, look for his blanket, close the door, and get the remote, and just leave him alone. You'll never know a child is in the house. That's just him. He just want to be left alone.
Mhm.
But he's a sweet boy.
Because it's less stress. It's less stress.
Yeah, less stress.
Mhm.
Yes.
Stress.
Yes.
That's why he
Yes.
wants to de-escalate things where he says it's okay because it's less stress. He
For
doesn't.
him.
Yes, for
Yeah.
him. I mean, he might be interpreting it differently. Maybe there is no stress there to worry about, but he doesn't want the stress because, just like the sensory reaction, that's very stressful for them. If they have a tag, which I cut the tags out of my children's clothes early on, and
Yes.
the other 2 are not autistic, but I cut the tags out because it's that constant rubbing.
Yeah.
It's such a distraction. It's terrible. It's sensory wise for them to
Yeah.
function. They might want to say something, but all they can do is feel that tag scratching them.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing. It's something that if we can separate ourselves and think, how would I react? Yeah, I can imagine. It must be horrible to not be able to do anything. I can't cook because this tag is bothering me. I have to change my clothes. I can't clean.
Yeah.
I can't read. I can't because this tag is bothering me. That's the way it is. So respect the fact that loud noises, my goodness, the vacuum, that is so true.
Yeah.
When if a student would be screaming in the classroom, it would set off another student because of the screaming, the high-pitched screaming would set that child off and they can't handle, they go like this. Covered
Yes.
in. It's
Yes.
too much. It's too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for something you just said. I have to tell daddy and his mom and his aunt. I didn't know whenever he gets hurt by one of the kids, and I'm like, Mason, I'd be like, no, you can't hit Mason. Mason hit that person back, and he's like, no, 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 no matter how he's hurt. You just said he's de-escalating the situation because of stress. I don't think any of us know that. We're just telling him, fight them. But I have to tell the family, I thank you for the information because I really didn't know that it was because of the stress. He's trying to de-escalate the stress. That's why he's removing himself, even if he's hurt. Okay, I didn't know that.
Exactly right. They're, like you said, they're pure souls. They are such gentle, loving people. that
Yeah.
we have to, they're like angels in my
Yeah.
eyes. They're so,
Yes.
and
You.
they want peace. They just want
Oh,
and love and
yeah.
gentleness, you know. And
Thank
people
you
want
so much for that. Thank you so much for that information. God bless you.
thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much. Yes. Is there any other questions? Because this is
All
really
right. Nadine was making some comment. She says, she's saying that her daughter don't fight back either. But then she was saying something about we don't use word like something is a little bit off. What are some words that would be offensive to say about somebody was have autism? What would be the correct thing to say that instead of saying, because we would say something is off with that child, their behavior is a little bit off. What
Can't
would
hear you,
be,
Sister Monica.
they're special.
they're special. You say they're special.
They're special.
Okay.
They're individuals. They are special. Everybody has their own way of being, in my
Okay.
eye. And their way of being is special, just like every other person's way of being is special. But they have to be respected for being special. They
Okay.
are not less than. They're not slow, which is a terrible word to say.
Okay.
There's a lot of words that fall under slow, which I won't even repeat. But I always, for instance, there was one student I had in my class once, and it was the first week of school. And he was a pretty high functioning autistic young boy. It was when I had the fifth grade class. And he said, Miss K, I'm stupid. And I swear, even now, the hairs on the back of my neck stand when I hear that, because it gets me so emotionally upset. And I said to him and the whole class, which again, I had only 5, I said, that is one of the words that I won't ever accept in this classroom. I don't want it ever to be said in this classroom, ever. And I had them do an assignment on why I am magnificent. And I typed it up, why I'm magnificent, and listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I said, had mommy or daddy or grandma, grandpa, or someone important to you help you write down, why are you magnificent? So this is what I want to build on. Their feelings of self, that what the other kids might say should, as much as I tried, has no impact on how certain people view them. And I viewed them as magnificent individuals. And that helped them with their self-esteem. They'd walk around saying, well, I'm magnificent because, I'm a child of God. I'm magnificent because I know how to write my name. I'm magnificent because Miss Kassner said I am, things like that, but and I'd always use that word over and over again, that they are magnificent beings, that they need to be, I always show them utmost respect. And even amongst typical kids, the bullying that goes on between typical kids, it is outrageous. So when I saw it with my children, my students, my mama bear instinct came out. And I'll give you a case in point. When my 5th graders had their 5th grade trip, we went to Disney World. And I'll never forget this, but we walked by some teenagers, typical teenagers, and somebody popped a balloon and it was really loud. And one of my students went like this, like this. And they thought it was hilarious, which the mama bear and me came out with, I saw red. So I brought my lovely little children to the side. I got them a bottle of water each. I said, just stand right here. Miss K is going to talk to those girls. And I said to them, I see you thought that was funny, that the child was slapping at his ears because the balloon popped. I see you thought it was funny. And I said, you should get down on your knees and pray to the Lord Jesus Christ that you don't have an autistic child that you don't understand. Before you pass judgment, think about what that person is experiencing. And that is the kindest thing I could say to them, because I was furious at that point. But we had to protect them to the point of, I had to felt the need to protect them against these teenagers. And you know what? They listened, their jaws dropped. And I hope that it struck a chord with them, because maybe they didn't realize he was autistic. But the fact that they were laughing and thought it was funny, I had a problem with that. So,
Yeah, that leads me to another question now, because like we were saying, that these children are special. So they're not to be compared with other children because they are special in their own right. How do you get them to the point where they accept themselves, or do they ask, why am I not like the other children? Like, how do they come to terms or reconcile themselves with the other children? Or how can you get them to see themselves, well, I can play football or I can play music because it would be too loud, and I can't be in the band because it would be too much stimulation for me. How do you get them to appreciate themselves within the limitations that they have?
Okay, what I did was teach them that every single one of us has a gift that is God-given, no matter what it is, no matter who you are, you have something special about you that is a gift. And the key is to find out what you're great at. I had a student that was a wonderful artist. And I just, whenever we had class time, we do our academics, but I made sure that during our free time, I used to bring all sorts of paints, crayons, pastels, anything that he needed and a nice surface to work on. He used to usually work on my desk because it was bigger, so that he can express himself artistically. And I used to tell them that everybody has a gift. And you know what, I believe that since they saw my passion and my belief in their abilities, then their attitudes about themselves changed, because we're not going to change what the outside world thinks about us. You know, there's always going to be people that are judging. But we have to understand inside that there's something God-given that separates us from everybody else. And we have to build on that gift. I used to tell them that I told my kids, because being in the public school, you can't talk about God and all that. But with my own kids, I used to say, wasting a gift is sinful. And God has given you a gift, and whatever that gift is, it is your responsibility to work on that gift, whatever that gift is. But to waste it is sinful, because he gives to you something special. So you should build on that. And I used to use that same idea with my students, the same thing, the same idea, that you have a gift. The key is, let's find that gift and let's work on that gift. And I had another child that, okay, there was artistic, one that had a great memory for words, for spelling. Oh my goodness, the spelling is incredible. Another student that could write so neatly. My handwriting is horrendous, as you can see. But I have another student that can write beautifully. Well, case in point is the lovely handwriting that Miss Abigail, my student Nadine's daughter, has. She has the most superb handwriting. That's a gift. That's something that she sees, that she can put a pen to paper or a pencil to paper and create these words in a beautiful way, to write them so neatly. That's something that's, I believe, is a gift. It's not something that you learn, because I tried all my life to write neatly. I cannot write.
I can't write neatly either.
I can't
I
write.
cannot write like Abigail either.
I try. I never got a lot of grades in penmanship. I think I never went above 7, and it didn't matter how many times I go up, I never got more than 7. And some people were so 10 at the first try. I can't do that. And now it's worse because I'm older and don't have the time to do it. All right, Nadine, go ahead because I have more questions, but we're going to come back tomorrow. Go ahead.
Yes, as we get to that point, I just remember that I'm left-handed and she's right-handed. And I remember, when she was really little, I was like, well, how am I going to teach her to write, because I'm left-handed, you know. But she learned on her own and she writes really, really well. Another child was visiting the other day and saw her writing on her whiteboard. And the other child is a little older. And she was like, Mama, her mom was there. She writes better than me. She was saying.
There you go.
About that. Yes.
Case in point. So she has something, a gift where her perception of the letters are refined. She is something with her perception that she can copy letters and make them so neat, so well written. It's something that I don't have. And again, we all have gifts, whatever those gifts may be. Oh, Miss Abigail is also, she can really sing. That child is blessed.
Okay, I have a question, but someone, and Nadine and Keisha, was saying that for children that are affected by the noise, you can get them noise canceling headphones that will reduce the amount of noise in their atmosphere. All right, so that they could so they won't be so stressed. My question now, like for Pauline's grandbaby who did not want to be held and don't like to be touched, how do you express love to children like those if you hugging them and touching them and they would be screaming? How do you convey to them that you someone please mute your phone? We keep muting this phone, keep on mute.
Okay. Dr. Monica, I can help with that one.
Okay, go ahead.
First the chat, but I wanted to ask a question first of her. You was asking about the children and how you tell them they can't play sports or whatever, like they're different. But Mason don't know he's different. And the question is, does these children know they're different? Because Mason, we never treated, a matter of fact, Mason thinks he's the man of the house. We never treat him different.
That's so important.
We never say anything around him. He don't know he's autistic, anything like that. And about the love, you have to let this child trust you because they have trust issues. If they don't trust you, then you can't touch them. And again, it depends on the spectrum. The next thing we're worried about Mason is that he's so trusting and innocent and angelic. We watch him. We watch him going outside, all three of them, because we wonder if Mason will walk up to a stranger. He's like, "Hi, I'm Mason. Hi, I'm Mason. What's your name? Hi, I'm Mason." So they have trust issues. Probably if they're abused, or depends on how. But Mason is just a regular child in our house, and he to us is too trusting. The touching, I'm surprised my friends came. No, I'm not surprised. Again, I said the Holy Spirit was on them, so he let them touch him. But I was, taken aback a little that they could hug him and touch him like that, and he was standing there looking at me, smiling, probably because I was there, Nana is there, so he feel comfortable. But that's one thing we always worry about him. Like he just will walk up to a stranger. "Hi, I'm Mason. What's your name?" And start talking to them and telling them, "Did you know that?" And just joke and stuff like that. But the question is, do these children know they're different? Because Mason doesn't know at all.
You made a good point by saying he's not treated differently at home. So that's why he doesn't consider himself any different than others. It's when the question arises within him saying, "Hey, the difference." If he asks, if he notices something different, then that's a whole new conversation, but the way he's treated like just like his siblings and like any other child, that's fine. And as far as social interaction, they have to be taught appropriate interaction, appropriate behavior. It's not appropriate to go up and hug a stranger. That's not appropriate
Okay.
behavior. We wouldn't do that. He can learn to shake hands. He can still say hi, but as far as stranger danger, we teach our
Uh-huh.
children stranger danger. You can't do that
Uh-huh.
to absolutely everybody. They have to be taught.
Okay.
They have to be taught
Thank
and they have to be supervised. And
thank you.
shaking hands is appropriate. Hugging is not appropriate. It's not appropriate behavior. As wonderful as it is to get a hug from a child, and I know how difficult it is to stick out your hand when you want to really hug that child, but you know, it's not good. It's not good for them to hug strangers. It's just not teaching them appropriate behavior. It's just not healthy.
Okay. So Nadine is saying they don't do any different. So when you do not treat them differently than the other children, they just think, well, okay, I'm just a child. So they're not looking at themselves like I'm a child with autism. I'm just a child. And I guess it's other people would have to say something to them for them to come to the parents to say, somebody say I'm stupid or I'm this and that. Am I stupid? And then they would come to ask. But if somebody don't say that to them, then they don't know that they are that. That's basically what
That's
it is.
what I'm saying. Yes, they don't know that they're different unless someone tells them that they're different. And that's where negative society's negative impact has on them. When for my student that was told that he was stupid on the bus, and that's why we did the whole Magnificent program. It's a sad thing, but that's society. And children are going to be bullies and they're going to judge, especially children that are special needs. They're going to judge them.
Okay, so we're gonna continue tomorrow, but I have one more question. When it comes to the schooling, because you said you had 5 students in your class, and this was in a public school
Yes,
with a
that was
special class.
and I had 2.
So how does the school system now handle them? Like in that sense, do they get them tested and then get the parents' approval to put them into a class? So how does that work when they're in school?
All right. How did they get tested? They get tested by the school psychologist. That's when you have a concern. And if the psychologist says that they have signs of autism, then they are put in a classroom for special needs children, and depending upon their challenges, their disabilities. And at that point, they have an individual education plan, which is federally mandated that special needs children get an individual education plan. And in the IEP, which is the individual education plan, they cover education, they cover curriculum and instruction, social emotional behavior, and then there's, which is the 2 things reports that I wrote, and then there's speech therapy, and there's what are the extraneous therapies that they would receive in addition to what I would provide. But that is mandated, and the IEP has to occur at least once a year. Most of the time, it's twice a year because they have interims. But that's one thing. I think it's called Section 504A. I vaguely remember that they are required. They are entitled to an IEP so that they can advance. But first step, school psychologist in the public school system. Second step, get diagnosed. Third step, get an IEP. So that's where it is. And then they put in the special needs class.
All right. Okay, Nadine, go ahead. And then Pauline, go ahead.
I just wanted to add a little more to that, and to say that early intervention will help this child to advance even further. Going back to what Pauline was saying earlier about when do you recognize or stuff like that. When Abigail was about 1, I noticed the certain things: no eye contact, no smile either. She started saying a few words and then she stopped. And I guess because I had a daughter before that was very talkative and all of that, these got me a little concerned. So then I spoke to her pediatrician, who said, okay, let's watch until she's 18 months. So at that point, the same thing. No, the word went away basically. And she didn't really flap her hands like some kids would, but there's still the no eye contact and playing inappropriately with toys. Like instead of bouncing a ball, they may, well, not a ball. Let's say a truck. Instead of like driving it on the floor, they may toss it like a ball,
Yeah.
something like that. Like the wrong playing with the toy the wrong way. So at 18 months, we took her to, it was called Children Diagnostic Center, I think, here in Fort Lauderdale. And she was diagnosed then, and we started receiving services in the home because she was not even 2 yet. So a speech therapist, speech pathologist, and a ABA therapist came in. And one, the speech therapist worked with her with speech, and the behavior tech worked with, behavioral things. And then as soon as she turned 3, she was put in the public school. So she was able to go to school at 3 free. I didn't have to pay. Usually, we would have to because the kids go to school here 4 or 5. And so she had an IEP like right then. So she started pre-K. At age 3, the bus would pick her up. She had a bus, she had a harness, everything. And so it started there. So early intervention, helped a lot. I've seen Abigail go from few words to now long sentences. She's writing 11, 12 sentences when she worked with Miss K, and reading like crazy. So she has improved. She doesn't like loud noise.
Remember, she wants to be a doctor, so.
Right.
Well, she wants to be a teacher, which is
Teacher.
wonderful.
She now wants to be a teacher. Okay, so she's no longer a
me.
doctor. Okay.
She mimics me. She teaches her dolls, and she does such a great job. She'll
Okay.
probably be a teacher one day.
All right. All right. Okay, go ahead. You're finished, Nadine? Because I interrupted because I thought Abigail was going to be a Dr. Abigail.
Oh, yeah. I just keep saying there's that part, early intervention. As soon as you know something, don't ignore it. Don't, what's the word?
Don't say it's not my child. Not my child.
Just get it done. You will help them. You will not help them if you turn a blind eye, ignore it, and be in denial. That's not going to help. Okay?
And even if you're going to pray, and even if you're going to fast over it, get the help while you're fasting and praying over it. Get the help.
There you go. Perfect.
Right. Because Abigail is very intelligent. All right. Okay. Now go ahead. Pauline, you were going to say something. Let me look in the chat to see what else.
It's basically the same thing that Nadine says, just except one thing. Mesa was diagnosed before we started school, before we started regular school, because he started baby school when he was 6 months, both of the kids. So from there, we just know something wrong. Before he went to pre-K, he already has all he was already going to private speech therapists and all of that stuff. So when we started pre-K, they already know. So all they have to do is the IUP, they have to do that through the state of Georgia, and then start putting him in special class. About them knowing that they're special, that's going to happen basically in school, to be honest with you, because Mason is going into 3rd grade now. So, when they go to the lunchroom with the regular 3rd grade children, I think that's where they're going to start. So that's where we're going to have to talk to him this summer before he starts 3rd grade. So he can be aware of when they start, saying mean stuff. Nana, granddaddy and his mom and his aunt will already tell him what to expect, gentle. So he don't, we have to start, because 3rd grade, these kids are really mean. And they're going to know he's in special ed, and they're going to start the teasing. And then he may know now that he may start thinking something is wrong with him. So that's my suggestion. First, kindergarten, pre-K, first grade and second grade, it was a breeze. But third grade, I don't know what to expect. But
And
while we
also,
pray, as Dr. Monica said, we have to be wise. We can't brush it under the rug.
right.
These kids are special angels, and we have to be on top of it with prayer, but we have to be on top of it so we can make their life as easy as we can.
And you know what? They can amount to great things. There's a book that I'm reading. It's written by a 13-year-old Japanese autistic boy. He actually wrote the book, but he had to type it because he can't verbalize it. And this is the name of the book. It says, "The Reason I Jump."
Oh my goodness. Let me screenshot that. Hold it. I'm screenshotting it. Got it. Thank you.
It's an excellent book. It's wonderful. It's a question and answer. He'll ask questions. He'll answer questions like, why do you do things you shouldn't, even you've been told a million times not to? And he answers why. I was coming from his perspective as an autistic young man, a 13-year-old. It's very, very good. A very good book. Another book that I've read some years ago, this woman is autistic. She was self-stimmed, rocked and that sort of thing, nonverbal. And her mother worked with her. Long story short, she must be in her 60s or 70s now. She's a PhD. And she's a PhD, and she's an engineer, and she talks about autism. And the interesting thing about her name is Temple Grandin, Grandin, Temple Grandin. I would highly recommend any book that she's written. So as she gave a talk once, and of several talks, but one particular talk, she starts taking her bra off from underneath her shirt. And she said, oh, the tag in the bra was bothering me so much. So typical, socially, that's inappropriate. But
that's my sister. Oh, and she's not autistic. She does that all the time.
Like, oh, that was bothering me. But I highly recommend any book that she's written. She's really very interesting.
Would you believe it? We're out of time. Those are the things we want to talk about tomorrow, their accomplishment and how the church can help, because I don't know a lot about it. I'm more familiar with those that have the Down syndrome and have experience with that one, with those special needs, but not with autistic, because this wasn't as common. Like Down syndrome has been around a long time. So that one now I am familiar with that one, but autistic, and we need to know how we can help. But we're over the time. How we can help, what can the church do, even in like say Sunday school, and how in teaching them the Bible and the Word of God, and how can we help, and their diet, their nutrition. Is there any food that they can get that can help them? Are there special kinds of like exercise or activity that will be more beneficial to them than what we would do for a normal child? So we will go into that tomorrow, and hopefully you'll be able to help us, because there are a few people here that have children that are autistic. And if you can, Keisha, if you get a screenshot of that book, or Monique, if you could send me a copy of that book, and then we can put the book in the chat and the name of that author, so we can send it out. Oh, typical, not normal, typical. All right, sorry, typical. All right, all right. So if we say that now, so if we get the books that we can put out there so people can use and see how we can help, because I think we need to do more to help the child and help the parents, and what support can we give to people that maybe I don't know what support, but probably you will have some ideas, Monique. How can we help when you want to help? Because sometimes you may want to help and say the wrong things and do the wrong things, but we want to know how we can help, and we will go into that tomorrow. Amen. So I hope Keisha get that book, and we'll put that book out there, and then we'll put the other stuff out there. Keisha, you're getting that, The Reason I Jump. And I think I need to read that because okay, she got it. Okay. If an autistic person can write that at 13 years old, I need to read that. It will motivate anybody else that think, well, I'm normal. Then we need to get that book to read, because if he did that and we're saying he's not normal, then when have you written a book? And he did it at 13 years old. You understand? When have you written a book? I have not written. I have manuscript, but I have not written a book. And especially not a 13-year-old.
Thick one too.
Right. That was the furthest thing from my mind at 13-year-old, to be writing a book. And for an autistic person to do that, that will motivate and inspire me. So I need to read that book to see what can I get from it for myself. To get from, because I never wanted to write a book at 13 years old. So you can see that something is there for all of us. So tomorrow, hopefully, you will give us some pointers and how we can go forward and help. Today was very, very informative and interesting, and we're looking forward to tomorrow, as we will wrap it up tomorrow and we'll ask our questions. So whatever questions I have, I'm going to save them for tomorrow. We're over the time. So see you tomorrow, and thank you, everyone. We're going to post that name of the book in the chat, and the name of that author, that the engineer that is, please give me the name of the book. We're going to put the name of the book in the WhatsApp chat, so you can have it there. Keisha will post it, and you forward that to other people you know with autistic children. Just forward that book and the name of the other person. Something grand, Temple.
Grandin, Grandin.
Okay, Temple Grandin. We'll put that information in the chat, and when you get it, forward it, put it out there, so that other people that are in that position can be helped. Thank you so much, and we look forward to tomorrow. And it's been eye-opening for me. It's been eye-opening for me, and I thank you so much. See you all tomorrow. I'm signing off now. God bless you.
God bless you.